You know what though, I kind of feel like we only need one of us in this video. I mean, there's not really anything to discuss. We kind of just got to present it. So, rock, paper, scissors.
Sure.
Dang it.
Look, everybody tries to make SEO seem really, really complicated. But ranking #1 on Google is actually pretty easy. Now, it's easy to see why it would seem complicated. Google themselves have said that there are over 200 signals, 200 factors that determine who shows up #1 and who doesn't show up at all. But if you can just understand these 11 most important ranking factors for Google, you can rank #1 just fine. So let's start with the 4 most important ranking factors. These top 3, Google has straight up identified and corroborated that these are the most important things for ranking well on Google. And the first one is the applicability of content. If you were to search something like, how much should I feed my pet schnauzer, and Google returned with results about feeding a chameleon, that would not help you in any way. And Google's job is to help users find what they're looking for. When it comes down to it, that's all they're doing. And so having content, writing articles that answer a very specific search term, something somebody's actually looking for, is very important. You can't just write like one tip for fishing and hope that's going to rank. It's gotta be a response to somebody's really specific search. The next one is quality links. Now, I know we talk about links a lot on this channel, and we talk about not going and actively building those links. What I am going to tell you though is that high quality links to your website is one of the most important signals to Google that your content is authoritative. What we don't advocate is spending a lot of your time seeking out those links, using any sort of black hat link building techniques, and even spending a lot of time on the so-called white hat link building techniques is probably not a good use of your time. If you want to learn how to get really good high quality backlinks without all of that work that you may be putting into it, go check out this video. I'm going to make sure it's about right here. Go check out this video that's going to tell you exactly how to get good high quality links. The next one is user testing. Now, somebody actually tried this. They went and they made a post that was just full of filler text, lorem ipsum text, right? And then sporadically throughout the post, they put in certain words that would signal to Google that the post was about a certain topic. They put those words in their H1, H2, and H3 headers throughout the article. And then they went and got a whole bunch of links to their website just to test it. And what were they able to do in the short term? They were able to rank #1. But Google knows that, and so Google does user testing on every one of the articles that they rank. When your article shows up in the search engine results page, the SERP, if people click on it because it has a good title and a good description that entices them to want to click on it, that's a signal to Google. Once they've clicked on it, if they stay on the page for a while, that's a good signal to Google. If they click through to another article on your website, that's a positive signal to Google that your content was helpful and relevant to the user. If instead they go to the article, they come right back out and they go to another article, that signals to Google that your content didn't help that particular user and may not be the type of content that should rank for that particular search. So how do you get around this? Well, a couple of things. One, write good headlines that entice people and that are good and descriptive of what the content is about. Number 2, have good, long, meaty posts that entice people to stay on the page longer. Number 3, a good internal linking strategy, linking to other articles that are on topic for that same search that those readers would be interested in reading, is going to entice people to click through to other pages on your website. Those tips are going to help you to be able to get a good user experience and get a better score from Google for that. The fourth really foundational ranking factor we have found is to be domain rank. Now, a lot of people will try to attribute a number to this, like I have a domain authority of 60. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the overall health of your domain. If you have a domain that has been penalized in the past by a user using really spammy techniques, or you have a domain that is brand new, those are domains that Google's not going to be able to attribute much trust or much authority to in the short term, and it's going to take some work to overcome that. But over time, as your domain gets some history behind it, as you have more and more articles that are doing well with this user testing, as you get good high quality links to other articles on that website, that domain becomes a domain that Google can trust. And so therefore, you'll be able to rank much higher, much faster than when you start a brand new website. All right, so these ones at the bottom are by far the most important, but they're also the hardest to do anything about when you're creating new content, other than just write good content on the right topics. But these ones up here are all very important as well, and they're a lot easier to do something about, to make your content better and rank a lot higher. So for every single one of these, I'm going to give you a specific tip. The first one here is content age. Now, we've talked about how new content on a brand new website can often take a long time to rank, but if old content doesn't rank as good as new content, how do you combat that? Well, the fact is that if you're writing about something where age doesn't matter, let's say you're writing an article about the Pythagorean theorem. Well, that hasn't changed since Pythagoras. If you have a 10-year-old article on that, it's probably going to be just fine. If you're writing anything about news, technology, any of that kind of stuff that's constantly changing, let's say you're talking about camera models, or maybe let's say how to set up a Wi-Fi router. That is going to be totally outdated within just a few years. So let's say you did write an article about Wi-Fi routers and how to set them up. Well, what you could do to help that content to continue to rank well despite being older is a couple of things. Go in and tweak that content, modify it, update it on a regular basis, at least once a year. But even better, when you're writing new content that is really time sensitive, like let's say Best Hoverboards 2019, what I recommend is that at the end of 2019, you go update that article to Best Hoverboards for 2020. And ninja tip here, don't put the date in the permalink. If you write the headline, Best Hoverboards for 2019, make sure you take that for 2019 off. You can update the headline just fine, but you don't want to be changing your permalinks. The next ranking factor is social signals. Now, if you've been around Income School for a while, you may have seen us talk about some social networks like Facebook and how it can be a huge waste of time to try to build up a giant following. But the fact is that if you do have some social community going on that you can leverage to help your blog, it actually does send really good signals and gets good traffic over to your blog posts really quickly, which can help you rank much more quickly and better in the long run. So how do you do this without wasting a ton of time? Well, first tip, don't use Facebook. It's probably not going to be effective at all at getting your message out to your audience in any sort of a timely manner. But if you have a good podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, those are two of our favorite ways to build up a following around you and around your topic. And then as you create new posts, new content, you need to leverage that audience. You need to find a way to get them from where they are over to that post on your website. The next one is page load speed. Now, in the past, we've talked about this as sort of a pass-fail test. If you're in the bottom like 25%, you're probably not going to do that well for SEO. But it's becoming a more and more important ranking factor to Google as more and more people use their mobile devices. And this one's really hard. Go in another browser right now and open up Google Page Speed Insights and go check 1 or 2 pages on your website. If your page load speed for mobile is above about 60, you're doing extremely well. Most WordPress websites can't even get there. So we're working on that. Actually, we have a project that we've been working on, and in just a very short time, we'll be releasing a new WordPress theme specifically designed to get your page load speed for both desktop and mobile to be as high as absolutely possible. The next one is internal links. These are links from one place on your website to another place on your website. And in this user section, I talked a little bit about how you can use internal links to get people to click through on your website more, which will signal to Google that your content was helpful and relevant. But more than that, having internal links on your website that people actually click will signal to Google that that article being linked to is also very helpful and authoritative and will help the ranking of that particular article. So how do we get internal links to work for us? Most people know to have them, but if nobody's clicking on them, they don't do us any good. So let's say you have an article about UTVs, and in it you want to link to another article you wrote where you're recommending your favorite UTV roofs. So in the article, you might say something like, you may want to buy a roof for your UTV. And the word roof is a link to your article. There are two problems, two big things missing. The first is, where is this going to take them? Is it an affiliate link to Amazon? Is it a Wikipedia article? They have no idea. And second is, what are they going to get when they click on that link? So if instead you said something along the lines of, you may want to get a roof for your UTV, and I wrote this other article about my favorite roofs for UTVs. Well, by saying that I wrote this other article, they know what they're going to get, an article about roofs for UTVs, and they know it's another article on your website. There's no question at all what they're going to get when they click that, and so they're much more likely to click on that. You want to sell every single one of the links that you post in any of your articles to get people to click on them. The next ranking factor is images and video. Having multimedia in your blog content actually, in and of itself, is a ranking factor to Google. A little while back, we came across a website that was all about like, what's the difference? And it would compare two different things. And in like all of their blog posts, they would just have an image. We're talking like a classic painting image. And they did that because they wanted to signal to Google, well, we have this multimedia in our article, but they didn't want to go spend the money on stock photos for their website. Now, that's one thing, and okay, maybe that will help signal to Google you have multimedia, but it's far better to have useful images and useful videos in your blog content mixed in with all of the written content as well. The next one is just having organizational information. Just information about what your site is, who you are as the writer. Google wants to know that the content that you've written has some authority to it. And so if they have no clue who it is that wrote it, if they have no clue what organization is behind it, it's going to be a little bit suspect to Google. So here's what you need. You need an About Us page, and you need to just describe like, what is your purpose? What's this website about? Having a good terms of service and a privacy policy for your website, which WordPress has made very easy for you to do. Those things are going to signal to Google that this site is at least legitimate. Google's 11th most important ranking factor is outbound links to quality sites. Again, Google wants to see signals that your content is accurate and authoritative. And so occasionally, and when it makes sense, having a link to an authority on the subject can actually increase the authoritativeness of your own website. For example, let's say you're writing something about taxes in the United States. Well, you definitely should have a link to irs.gov to wherever that thing is cited in the tax code so that it can signal to the readers and to Google that what you've written is accurate. All of these are things that Google has ways of actually measuring. But what Google's trying to do is use these metrics to measure the authority of your website and the helpfulness of your website. So what's at the foundational core of writing good content and ranking well on Google is to have accurate and authoritative content that's extremely helpful to the user. Okay, the rest of the pyramid is full of the literally hundreds of other ranking factors that Google uses in their algorithm to decide who fits where in the search engine results. These are things like, have you set your canonical tags right? Have you no-indexed your category pages to prevent duplicate content? Have you put alt text in all of the images on your website? These are things that people will tell you are SEO best practices. But in our experience, they have never held us back from ranking number one. In fact, over half of the articles we write rank number one on Google when given enough time. But there are a few other ranking factors that we have found to be sort of pass-fail. These are things you should just do. If you don't do them, it could totally hold you back, but doing them a certain way doesn't necessarily boost your ranking in any sort of incremental fashion. I hope that made sense. The first one is mobile friendly. You need a WordPress theme that is designed to be able to handle mobile. The next one is duplicate content. In our Creator Studio, we tell our writers to never write a quote that's longer than 3 sentences. You should never be copying, plagiarizing content or images from other websites that you don't have the rights to use yourself. Having an SSL certificate on your website. Today, this isn't going to really prevent you from ranking, but it won't be long before this is just going to be a deal breaker. Broken links on your website. If you have links on your site that don't go anywhere, it's a signal to Google. You need to fix your links. And last, malware. if you have malware on your site, Google is not going to want to send people to it.
And that is Ricky's SEO pyramid of greatness. It will take little teeny SEOs and make them big SEOs, and big SEOs into gladiator SEOs, and gladiator SEOs into Swansons.